This podcast is sponsored by nobody.
Hey dudes, this is Miss Misery of Movie Massacre, and you're listening to Tommy Throwback Kovac on Splat from the Past. Tommy will come anywhere.
Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming Summer Flynn. She is one of the Dolls of Horror, and she is a host of the Days of the Dead panels at their conventions, and I'm going to have her on today. We're going to nerd out on horror. We've been trying to make this happen since halfway through the year since it started, but she's very, very busy, not just with hosting panels at Days of the Dead, but her day job as well. And I can't wait to have her on. I'm going to ask her about subgenres and experiences, hosting panels and meeting celebrities and so forth. And I am so excited to have her on today. Also, I just found out the woman who took me in when I was homeless in the group home situation, Janet, she passed away from cancer. And it's pretty sad. Despite the fact I never felt safe in that house, and there was lots of tension there before I moved, I am grateful to the fact that she put a roof over my head. I mean, she didn't have to do that, and yet she did. And it's just a really bittersweet thing. But, I just hope that, whoever's left from her family, I hope, they get some support and closure from this. Rest in peace, Janet. So yeah, here is my interview with Summer Flynn. Hey, Summer, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Tommy.
Absolutely. This is a great honor. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
No problem.
So, going back in time, I heard you say that you started gravitating toward horror when you were about 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was the first horror movie you ever saw?
That would have been Suspiria. It was at my grandmother's house. I spent a lot of time over there. She had a house full of foster children, and I was an only child at the time. So I just loved being there any chance I got. And her foster children were all ages, my age, younger, high schoolers. So, of course, I always wanted to hang out with the high schoolers, right?
Right.
And they rented horror films one weekend, and one of them was Suspiria. And I was hooked. I was like, ballet and witches? What?
Yeah, oh my God, that's crazy. My parents showed me The Shining when I was a year old, and it fucked me up, I'll tell you.
It's really funny because I do vividly remember, I was probably about 5, sneaking out into the living room to see Killer Clowns from Outer Space because I thought it must be like for kids because it has clowns in it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember which scene I saw, but it scared me. I turned it off, ran back to the bedroom, hid under the blankets for the rest of the night. And I watch it now, of course, and I said, really? This scared me? Wow, I was a wuss. But yeah, so 5 years old, too young, 8 years old, just right.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, it's funny. I went back and watched The Shining when I was 7. It was chopped up on the USA Network. And I don't know, there was something about it chopped up that just made me give it another chance. And then next thing you know, it was my go-to horror movie every Halloween after that.
Very nice. It's my go-to blizzard movie. I live in Chicago. When it gets cold out,
Uh-huh.
I always turn it on. Except I prefer the remake. Sorry, guys. I'm a purist. I like the book. And the miniseries is so much closer to the book. So I will always watch that one.
Yeah, I can't get into Steven Weber playing Jack Torrance.
Oh, I definitely can. He's a great Jack for me. And Rebecca De
Mm-hmm.
Mornay is great. And I'm not the biggest fan of Cortland Mead, so I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't crazy about the kid, but everything else about that movie was fantastic. I mean, directed by Mick Garris, written by Stephen King,
Right.
filmed at the real shining hotel. You can't beat it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go by subgenre, starting with slashers, which is my favorite subgenre. What are your favorite slashers?
Does Candyman count?
Sure.
Candyman, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And as a franchise as a whole, I'm a Freddy girl. I love The Nightmare on Elm Street, the whole franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Freddy, but I'm a Jason guy thick and through. That was like the first franchise I truly fell in love with because I had seen the Freddy movies before then, but there was something about Jason just being the silent killer, just that I fell in love with. And the first one was the first one I saw, so I had a crush on Adrienne King like from the get-go, and I've had her on the podcast twice. I just adore her.
Yeah, she's great. So who's your favorite Jason actor?
Oh my God, that is a tough one.
I know, they're all very different.
Yeah, I would narrow it down to, even though Kane wasn't in the best of them, I think he is just terrifying as Jason. CJ's great. Ted White is great. Yeah, Richard Brooker, Steve Dash were all great. I don't know. Maybe a tie between Kane and CJ.
Yeah, those are good options. I was actually just editing my Kane Hodder panel that I recorded a couple of weeks ago
Hmm.
at Days of the Dead Atlanta, and Jennifer Banco made a visit with us too. So it was a surprise guest. It was awesome. And so yeah, I have Kane on the brain right now.
Jennifer's been promising me a while to come on too. Right now, she's in her political mode during this election, so
Hmm.
hopefully, I'll get her soon. But yeah, I mean, I think 1981 was the best year for slashers because you had Friday the 13th Part 2, My Bloody Valentine, Just Before Dawn, Don't Go in the Woods, The Prowler, Bloody Birthday, Final Exam, stuff like that. There were so many good slashers that year, you know?
Hmm. For me, I think 88 might be my favorite year for horror. I can't remember everything that came out, but I think Nightmare on Elm Street 4 was that year. Was Hellraiser that year? Right, I think.
Hellraiser 2.
So, okay, Hellraiser 2, right? I
Yeah.
knew one of them. And so many other amazing horror films and horror sequels came out in 88. So I think 88 might be my favorite year.
Wow, I never realized that though, but yeah, that is cool. Have you ever seen Without Warning?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar. What is that one?
That's 1980. It takes place in like a rural summer camp like area. Graydon Clark, who made movies like Wacko and Joysticks and stuff, made it. It's got Jack Palance and Martin Landau
Mm,
as the adults. One of the kids is Darby Hinton from the Daniel Boone series. I had him on earlier this year and we talked about it.
very nice. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Terror Train?
Oh yeah.
That's so underrated, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a great New Year's movie. We don't have enough like off holiday horror. We don't have enough Easter horror, Thanksgiving horror, New Year's horror.
I
You
but
know, we have a few Valentine's Day. We have plenty of Christmas. Christmas is my favorite.
yeah.
But we need more holiday horror, and that's a really great New Year's horror for me.
I love Christmas horror movies. Have you ever seen Blood Beat?
Blood Beat or Beach?
Beat.
No.
I love Blood Beach, but yeah, Blood Beat is a horror movie. It takes place in Wisconsin. I've interviewed the director. He's French. His name is Fabrice, and it's about this Japanese samurai warrior who's going around killing people, killing off this family at Christmas time, and it's very, very entertaining.
All right. I'll have to check that one out too. I haven't had, I'm way behind on my watching. I've been so crazy busy this year.
Hmm.
that I just have not had time to watch hardly anything at all. I'm so behind. I keep promising my friend that I'm going to watch his movie. It's a rough cut, and
Mm.
God, it's just I have not had time to see anything. No fun for me.
Well, the great thing about the Shout Factory and the Scream Factory is that they've put all these obscure slashers out on Blu-ray. It's phenomenal. I never thought in my lifetime I would see that.
Yeah, I was very excited. One of my old favorites. Um, it's British. It's called Bloody New Year.
Oh, yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
it got a Blu-ray release a few years ago, and before that, I only had a really terrible ripped from VHS to DVD copy because that's all there was available.
Hmm.
And I have fond memories of this movie, renting it, of course. And so for years, that's all I was able to have. And then when it got re-released, I think, I don't know, Vinegar Syndrome might have done it. I can't remember which
Right.
company did it, but I was just thrilled. So it's so neat that these companies are releasing these on Blu-ray, 4K, and DVD, and in
Yeah.
some cases doing their best to restore the quality. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even in the early 2000s when Anchor Bay was putting out a lot of the obscure horror films that were released on Media Home Entertainment and Thor and MI Video, which I own many on VHS. I have like a whole VHS video store in my bedroom.
Hmm.
I was so excited because people would do commentary tracks for them, and you get to find out stuff that was not on IMDb and everything, and then eventually it did, you know. It's so awesome that we can still have physical media in this day and age.
Definitely.
How about zombie films?
I don't like zombies really.
Really?
It's not, yeah, not really at all. It's not a subgenre that I've ever gravitated towards. There's a few of those, and I'll have to say that my friends, my wrestler friends, they did one called the Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre a couple years ago. And I'm not a wrestling fan and I'm not a zombie fan. So this movie was not made for me. This was not aimed for me at all, but I really enjoyed it. So that's the highest praise for them and the quality of their film. Because if you can make me like your zombie and wrestling movie something I don't like, then
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that one. Of course, you got to go Night of the Living Dead. I mean, whether you like the movie or not, it's legendary. It's groundbreaking. And there was okay. I was forced to watch for my podcast. My guest wanted to do it, so I just did it. I'm not going to try to rain on their parade. This is the movie they wanted to do. We did it. Train to Busan was surprisingly amazing.
I haven't seen that one. When was it made?
Maybe in the year 2008-ish. Stand by. Looking at it now.
Oh, okay.
I was so wrong. 2016. It is Korean, and you can either get the dubbed version or the subtitle version. I watched the dubbed version because I'm not a very fast reader, so I have a hard time keeping up with subtitles when that's all I have on a screen. And so I watched it, and it hits different. It's very emotional. It's a beautiful film, and it has a beautiful score. And I was really surprised because I was actually going in negative. I'm not going to like this. This is going to be stupid, right? And it turned out to be pretty damn good. So I stand corrected. Train to Busan was fantastic.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, the Romero trilogy, the first one, is my favorite. Dawn of the Dead's my absolute favorite. It got me through a difficult time when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. And Night and Day I love too. Day took me a little bit longer to really like because there's a lot of screaming in it and a lot of tension, and it's really dark compared to the other two, but I've come around in recent years and loved it. The Evil Dead and Night of the Comet, even though it's more of a comedy. Those are like my favorite as far as zombies go. How about the supernatural genre?
Ooh, supernatural. Now when you say supernatural, do you mean like ghosts,
Yeah,
demons? Yeah?
yeah.
Okay. Ooh, that's tough. Oh gosh, there's so many great ones. I do love the Conjuring universe a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I've always loved those stories and Haunting in Connecticut was
Hmm.
very good. That was another Ed and Lorraine Warren case. Oh gosh, there's just so many. I love Amityville. I love. I love that. I love that subgenre so much. It's so difficult. Ooh, Sinister. Sinister is got to be one of my tops. Every time I watch it, now
Hmm.
I don't get scared at horror films.
Yeah.
I've been frightened by 3 movies ever in my life, and it's only because of specific gore scenes. It wasn't even the movie. But every time I watch Sinister, while I'm not exactly frightened, I get physical goosebumps when that score comes on. It's just magical. It's so good.
Oh yeah. There's several of those movies. You get goosebumps from. Yeah, I put The Shining in that category. The Fog,
Mm-hmm.
which was shot near my hometown, and Phantasm, the original,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I like I like Poltergeist, but like I don't know, it's a really cursed movie. I think with everybody involved in it.
Kinda. I mean, I love Poltergeist. Special. Honestly, I love all 3 for their own reasons.
Hmm.
I always gravitate towards part 1, obviously, but God, even part 3 is has its good points, and it was
Yep.
filmed here where I live in Chicago too. So there's that. But I mean, I'm a little iffy on curses, honestly.
Hmm.
Bad things happen to everyone everywhere, and the only time we ever hear about it is when it happens to famous people or on a production. Not saying that it wasn't haunted,
Yeah.
but curses, eh, I'm I'm uh I'm not really buying into too much of that stuff.
Yeah. How about vampires?
Vampires. Okay. Hmm. Honestly,
Hmm.
gotta go Bram Stoker's Dracula. I know that's a boring one, but it's pretty great.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's so good that even The Simpsons made fun of it right when it came out.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
mean that cast, you cannot beat Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins, and everyone in that cast was just stellar.
I never thought that Francis Coppola would ever make a Dracula movie, but I was so glad that he did. You know,
Yeah, it's so amazing. Of all the Dracula movies ever made, that's my winner.
I love Fright Night. I love The Lost
Oh,
Boys,
that's a Fright Night's good one. Lost Boys is a good one.
Near Dark,
Okay.
Vamp. I've had Dee Dee Pfeiffer on twice. She needs to do conventions. She'd be great in them. And I've told her this, but uh, she doesn't know how the process works and stuff. And I've told her, hopefully someday she'll do them. She's a lot of fun. Um, yeah, I even love.
Does she need a rep?
I guess she would have to need one. Yeah, I mean she does have reps for other things, but for conventions, she just doesn't know how the process works and everything.
Yeah. Well, we can get her hooked up with some reps. See if they're interested. So.
Yeah, and remember there was that whole trend of vampire comedies in the late 80s. There was My Best Friend's a Vampire and Once Bitten with Jim Carrey and
Oh, I love Once Bitten,
the best.
Yeah.
And Teen Vamp. I just interviewed the guy who played the lead in that movie last week.
Mm. Yeah, I love me some Once Bitten. I mean, that was my first exposure to Megan Mullally. So
Yep.
that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God, that's just like my favorite like 80s horror comedy, one I could watch over and over again. And I've been lucky I've gotten to interview people from it and stuff. And I just love it. I think it's Jim Carrey's best movie, and that's saying a lot with all the great movies he did when his career really took off.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's definitely up there. I love that one and a couple of other of his comedies. And what was that one Jim Carrey did about numerology? Was it number 13 or something? Number 21? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Number 23. That's what it was. Yeah, that one was good. You don't really get to see him play dramatic that often, and that was really disturbing.
Well, he did The Majestic. That was dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I stopped watching his movies after Bruce Almighty, and then, he disappeared for a while, and he's slowly come back. He had that show on Showtime that didn't last, where he was like a kid's host or something. He was like a Mr. Rogers type. It was a strange little show that he did. How about werewolves?
Oh, that is one subgenre I don't gravitate towards either, but I have my favorites, right?
Right.
Unlike with zombies, I definitely have my few that I adore. American Werewolf is probably my number one. And then The Howling, of course. And I know this is an anthology, but Trick or Treat. I love Trick or Treat.
Oh yeah, I love Trick or Treat. I love The Howling. Have you ever seen any of the sequels?
Oh, yeah, yuck, gross, stupid.
Yeah.
Not a fan, honestly. Now I'm not a prude exactly, but I don't need all that nudity in my movies. I just don't. It's just stupid. Only if there's a reason for it, and there wasn't.
Yeah, an American Werewolf in London.
I love that. I love David Naughton. He's the best.
I had such a crush on Jenny Agutter. The part where she's tucking the little boy in bed and she starts tickling him. I used to wish that was me. I did be.
I really.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I know this is like a strange movie because it went through so many weird transitions and rewrites and issues, but I really do like Cursed.
Yeah, Cursed is good. Yeah, I met David Naughton at my first HorrorCon ever, and there was this guy that was in front of me. He kept pulling things out of his bag to be signed, and David looked over to me and had this look like "get me out of here" kind of a thing. This guy just kept doing it, and then it's my turn to talk to him, and I tell him I love this. He did this late night erotica movie that had a lot of nudity and sex in it called Wild Cactus back in the early 90s.
Oh, yes.
And I told him how much I loved it, and he said, "Oh my God, the girl who played my wife, she literally slept with every guy on that set except me. I was like a big brother to her." And I was like, wow, I can't believe he's telling me this. This is so awesome. Yeah. Have you ever seen Lone Wolf?
No.
It's a low-budget werewolf movie, 1988. It was shot in Colorado. The guy who made it, John Callis, I interviewed him. He was very intense, that guy. It's a nice little gem. It's a lost gem of a werewolf movie. Oh, there's one werewolf movie I could recommend I don't know, it may come off a little boring. I like it. It's called Wolfman. It came out in 1979. Worth Keeter, who was like the king of low-budget Southern, horror movies in the 80s. And he later directed the Power Rangers series. He made this movie. The movie takes place in the 1800s in the South, but it looks like Scotland Yard because everyone's dressed like Sherlock Holmes in this movie, like that era. And I recommend it. It's good.
I do love me some Stephen King. Got to mention Silver Bullet too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Corey Haim and Gary Busey.
Oh! I just remembered Ginger Snaps is good.
Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, I guess I like more werewolf movies than I thought, but there were some really good ones.
Yeah. There's some controversy on Facebook the other night. someone, I don't know, made a convention ad for John Grise when he was in the Monster Squad, and Carl T-Bolt was the Wolf Man, and John Grise was the guy who turned into him. But they made it look like he was both guys, and like people were getting all pissed off about it.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know why, but there was some silliness there. How about body horror?
Ooh. Mm. Okay, so American Mary comes to mind. I really like that one.
Mm-hmm.
The Soska sisters, adore them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I'm trying to remember. Body horror is not something that I am so familiar with. It's not that I dislike it. I just don't know much about it. Is The Fly considered body horror?
Oh, definitely. It's Cronenberg.
Yeah, so I do like The Fly. I liked his Rabid. I like the Soska's remake of Rabid as well.
Right.
What else? Body horror.
Reanimator.
Yeah, that one, I mean, it's good. It's okay. It's not one that I really go seek out to watch, but I don't dislike it.
As a woman, do you agree that Barbara Crampton probably had the best boobs of any 80s horror scream queen?
Oh, that's difficult. I'd have to review the boobs.
Yeah.
Honestly. So there are so many to choose from. I can't pick, and I have not done my research on this topic.
I can tell you they are gorgeous. She got naked in every 80s movie, Barbara Crampton. And it's funny, her and I hung out at a screening of one of her movies in San Francisco in 2016, and she told me she would still do nudity today if she was asked, but she's got like wrinkles now, and she's like really scared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Reanimator and From Beyond. I think Stuart Gordon was just an underrated genius, and he had come from theater, so he had this really great way of working with actors.
Yeah, I just Googled just now because I'm cheating. Body horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Cabin Fever came up. That one is really disgusting and amazing.
Mm-hmm. How about Basket Case?
I do love me some Basket Case. I do enjoy all three. They're all very different movies. Part one is probably my favorite because I love that gritty old New York feel of it all. But part two is fun, and part three has a musical number. I mean, how can I say no to that?
Yeah, I got into it later. I remember seeing the box covers at the video store for years, and I was just like, that's got to be a really gross horror movie. And when I saw it, I was right. It's just, I don't know. There's something about that New York horror thing that's just so gritty and also very campy and over the top too. I mean, New York horror filmmakers have a real sense of humor, and they like to bring campiness to horror films. The Frankenhooker definitely has a lot of that, and Slime City.
I don't know that one.
Oh my God, Gregory Lamberson, he made Slime City. That was his first one, and it's like the movie he gets asked about the most out of all the horror movies he's made. Oh my God, it's about nuclear waste infection, and it takes place in a gritty New York apartment. It is so awesome. Go watch it on YouTube. You'll love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to Greg last year about it and stuff. Yeah, remember Street Trash?
Oh, wow. Barely. I mean, it's been about 20 years. Wow.
Yeah, I interviewed the main guy from that one, Mike Lackey and stuff. Yeah, those New York ones are amazing. What was that one? The Long Island Cannibal Massacre?
I'm not sure I know that one either.
That's an obscure one. Yeah, that's a New York one too. How about Carnage?
No.
Carnage is an obscure.
Yeah, I told you I really was not familiar with body horror, and I've proven my point. Wow.
Carnage is not really body horror; it's more slasher. But like, it's really cheesy. I interviewed this one actress who was in it the other day. Oh my God, the worst special effect ever. She gets her head chopped off, and you can tell it's a mannequin. It was so bad, so bad. How about the old black and white creature features?
Oh, I mean, I'm not really a creature feature person. I do love our old standards, our Bela Lugosi's Dracula, the Phantom of the Opera, the Silent Phantom of the Opera, right? Our Frankenstein, our Wolfman. So yeah, I like the old standards and stuff, but not really so much the obscure ones, you know?
Yeah, I love all those early ones. Dracula, Frankenstein, Invisible Man, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Mummy, and stuff like that. Those are great. But for creature features, yeah, I loved Little Shop of Horrors. My most prized possession, I have an old Little Shop of Horrors lobby card signed by Seymour and Audrey. I met them at the last Monster Palooza I went to in LA before lockdown. I got to meet them, and this is my most prized possession.
Oh, I'm a Broadway girl, so that would be awesome. I just saw a production of Little Shop of Horrors off Broadway in February, and it was magical. So good.
Yeah. I love the Corman original, that's what I was talking about, meeting them and stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
no. I like the musical. I like the Frank Oz. And
I do too. That's how I first discovered it. I don't think Rick Moranis and Ellen Green would ever do any kind of meet and greet, but, having the original is just, I love it. My second most prized possession is my stuff cup from Larry Cohen's The Stuff.
Oh, the stuff. I love the stuff. Just can't get enough of the stuff. Oh, stuff is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love the stuff. Yeah. We did an episode on the stuff maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, possibly. That was a good movie.
I've been obsessed with it since I was like 10. And I have it signed by Larry Cohen, Lorraine Landon, and Paul Sorvino. I've met them all. And it's my most prized possession next to that lobby card and stuff. It's like the Blob in a way, but the Blob eats you, and stuff after you eat it.
Right, from the inside out. It's so visceral and amazing. And Michael Moriarty, amazing. I loved him. I love it when he's like, they call me Mo because I always want Mo.
Yeah. He's always playing crazy characters because he himself was in the Looney Bin for a while back in the 60s. And so, it plays hand in hand and stuff. Yeah, I just love the stuff. It's so underrated. I remember when I was carrying my cup around to get signed by Paul Sorvino at Sinister Creature Con, there was this kid, I don't know how old he was. He was like, "What's the stuff?" And I'm thinking to myself, you're at a horror con, you don't know what the stuff is, Yeah,
it is more of an obscure one though. If you know, you know, but you got to know.
Right, it's New World Pictures, and I know all the New World movies. I love New World Pictures. They did Hellraiser and House and the sequels and stuff, the first couple sequels. So when did you start attending conventions as a fan?
I started attending conventions in 2017. My first convention was Flashback Weekend out here in Rosemont, and it was magical. I'd always wanted to go to a convention, specifically Flashback Weekend, because I always saw that it advertised, but I was always afraid to go. I was shy, and I was intimidated, and my husband didn't want to go with me, and so I just didn't. And then they had the Nightmare on Elm Street 4 cast there. And I'm like, God, I got to meet Brooke Thies. I just have to.
Yeah.
And I got to meet Toy Newkirk. My little 90210 Love and Heart has to meet these people. And then, so I said, all right, I'm going. And I asked the husband at the time to go with me, and he's like, no, go and have fun. And I did, and it was the best time of my entire life. I came back, and he said, well, how was it? I said, it was the best day of my life. And he's like, wow, really? I said, yep. And I meant it. And then he started attending with me. He got a little jealous, I think. But yeah, it was great. I walked into that room. I got my ticket, and I walked into the main exhibit hall where all of the vendors and celebrities were in the same room in this convention. And it was just like I was home, and I was with my people. And I didn't know a single person there, but I've never felt so at ease in an environment.
Yeah. Who's your list of the best celebrity meetings at these cons?
Oh, man. All the Nightmare on Elm Street people. Doesn't matter which one. They're all fantastic and amazing. Malcolm McDowell is pretty damn great. Let's see here. There's just so many. It's a tough one. I still have a bucket list of people that I would love to meet one day. Mm-hmm. I just crossed off one of my bucket lists. I finally got to meet Catherine Hicks. I went to 90s Con. They had a Seventh Heaven reunion, and she was the main reason I wanted to go. Right. And luckily, she didn't have to cancel, and I got to meet her, and it was pretty epic. And and I have a few more that I really, really want to meet one day, but there's just so many amazing ones. It's really hard to narrow it down.
Oh, here's my list of all the good ones. Here's my list of all the good ones. E.G. Daily, Robert Hayes, Terry Kaiser, P.J. Souls, Suze Lanier, Adrienne Barbeau, Dee Wallace, Kyra Schoen, Judith O'Day, Jennifer Rubin, Brooke Thies, Adrienne King. And I've been so lucky. I've gotten to interview a lot of these people over the years and have friendships with some of them. And it's just so profound, Yeah, like I said, at that first Monsterpalooza I went to was in 2016. I got to meet David Naughton, Robert Hayes, Fred Williamson, Kathleen Kinmont, Kimmy Robertson, Brink Stevens, Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney, all in one day, and it was just the best day of my life. They were all so great. I had no problems with them. They were just fantastic. And I didn't even have a podcast yet. That came the very next year and stuff. And God, it's like a magical dream that just never ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many great ones.
I won't even mention the worst ones because I know you know a lot of them. You've done panels with a lot of them, but in my experience, I probably only had 2, possibly 3, but I'm just going to go with 2 that were not kind people. And of all the panels I've ever done, and all the people I've ever met, 2 is not a bad number. Yeah. I don't know. I've had just under 5 or so at cons, and I've had bad experiences dealing with people to get them on the podcast, but I don't really count that. Although, right. you know the fabric of their character overall when you have that kind of a situation. But so you started hosting the panels for Days of the Dead during the pandemic, right?
Yeah. The position was offered to me actually in August of 2020. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to do my first convention, though, my first panel, until April of 2021. Mm-hmm.
So
I wasn't. They did have some conventions, but I wasn't able to make those. But since then, I think I have attended every single one of them.
So how did that happen, though? Was it an organic process of, getting to know people?
You mean like the staff, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. I met the owner of the convention just during the pandemic, and we had some words, and then I ran into him again a couple weeks later at Nightmare Toys in Las Vegas when I was helping Christy open her store. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so there was that. And I was just welcomed into the Days of the Dead family. It's a small, tight-knit crew. And so, yeah, we're just a family there. It's great.
I wanted to host panels for the longest time. I gave up about 2 years ago. I'm not interested in schmoozing and getting to know people in power and stuff and do all that. And I don't agree with most people on things when it comes to the current climate of horror and stuff. So I just gave up. I came close to hosting a panel in 2021. This con promoter who does like 4 Comic Cons in different areas each year. He needed somebody to host a panel, and it was for Tom Sizemore. Now, I'm glad I didn't do that panel because he had a reputation for being a wife beater, and like I don't think that's cool. So I probably would have thrown him under the bus on stage had I have done that panel right. But the reason why I didn't do the panel was because my mom had to have surgery, and I had to watch her that week, and so that's why I didn't go. And I think he was upset at me because I had a replacement lined up and he canceled at the last minute, and I don't know what ended up happening. And so he's not too enthusiastic about having me host a panel for him after all. So I just gave up on it. It's just I don't have the time to schmooze and all that stuff.
Yep, you got to remain diplomatic. Doesn't matter who they are or what they did.
Yeah.
Got to go into it clean.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't do it, but at least I made the attempt, How long have you had your YouTube channel now?
Pretty much since the start of the podcast. The podcast was launched, I should say, in November of 2019. Mm-hmm. And YouTube came along as a natural progression very shortly after. Now, I didn't really post much on it. Didn't know what to post, right? Because we weren't posting our episodes. So it wasn't really until I started hosting interviews, not panels, because I interviewed before panels, but hosting interviews on Zoom and such, that I really started focusing on the YouTube channel.
Right.
And I've been having fun posting other things that I enjoy on it too, and people are loving it. Like I have a whole series of shows that I really enjoy that are so old and not popular that I don't know if they're public domain, but they don't get flagged, so they get to be up there. And
I see.
In the comments, in the likes I get, and the comments I get about these shows are amazing because it's like you're finding the fans of something super obscure,
Yeah. And where did the name The Dolls of Horror come from?
That came from my original co-host at the time, Tori. Mm-hmm. We were trying to figure out who or what should we call this show. Well, first let me say, the show started because I was listening to a podcast, just a random podcast. I think I found him on Instagram or something called It's a Horror Podcast with Wes and Kevin. And I'm listening and I'm like, these guys are really fun to listen to. I wonder if I could do that. So I reached out to Wes and on Instagram, and we started talking, and I was asking him about how do you do this? And he and Kevin both basically coached me on how to do a podcast, the technical aspects of it, the programs they use, the editing, everything about it. And so this was in the summer, probably June of 2019, and when I was talking to Wes about it, and then I was like, all right, hey, Tori, you want to maybe do a podcast? And she didn't know anything about podcasts. Yeah. And so I sent her an episode of It's a Horror Podcast. I said, well, these guys like this, they talk about movies and this is their format and da-da-da. Mm-hmm. And she goes, yeah, we could do that. And so for the next few months, we conceptualized, we planned, we talked about how we want to do it. And it's like, well, what should it be called? And she goes, well, you really like dolls, because I love doll movies. And so how about we be the dolls of horror and we could dress up all cute and stuff? And I'm like, well, that works for me.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. So Tori picked the name. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you and Tori part on good terms?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Tori and I are great. She just got very busy with her life. She has children. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And she was getting into a new relationship, and she was working a lot. She got a new job, and so she was working like a whole lot. So the time just wasn't really allowing for it, and it was too much of a strain on her. Like, she didn't quit. I offered her an out. She just didn't seem like she was having fun anymore. And so I was like, if you don't want to do this anymore, you don't have to. Because it felt like she was doing it because she felt like she had to. And that's not what I wanted. And she goes, yeah, that would be best. So we parted on good terms. We're still good friends. She's actually at Scarefest right now.
Nice. Nice.
And she's come back over and over again to be a guest. She just don't have time to commit fully to the project.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry for making reference to the one you didn't part on good terms with yesterday. That because there were still pictures of you two on Instagram, so I assumed,
Oh yeah.
But we've all had
go ahead. Very, very unfortunately, and I'm very vocal about this. Unfortunately, I brought her along on this journey, and I included her on everything. And including all the photos that I purchased, all the photo ops that I purchased. So now she is in all my photos. So unfortunately, if I want to post a picture of George Wendt, she has to be in the fucking photo.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. I'm not doing that again. But yeah, so yeah, that's fine. But yeah, no, she's been gone out of the picture, and her name is removed from all the platforms and has not been spoken of on the podcast since November.
Yeah, we've all had those experiences as horror content creators, running into other horror content creators that are toxic, and you don't know that they're toxic until it's much, much too late, that they got some fucking, mental illness that you didn't know about, fucking,
the problem is I'm a straight shooter, and I'm going to tell you how I feel, and I'm going to tell you what I think. And
Same
when
here.
I see you on some bullshit, then I'm going to tell you about it nicely, and then your feelings are going to get hurt, and then you're going to make me out to be the bad guy. So, yeah.
It's called covert narcissism. The people,
exactly.
The people who do that. Yeah. I've had my share. I had a huge blow up that was semi-public with this one content creator. She claimed that I was inappropriate with her in an instant message 2 years ago as I reached out to her to get her on the podcast because I heard her on another podcast, and I have no recollection of ever even seeing her name before that. And then she did an anniversary episode of her podcast, and she mentioned our incident and read it on air, and I was just so fucking pissed. I still am about that.
Well, so it was in writing, though?
Yes.
The there's no arguing that.
The blow up that we had, yes, the blow up that we had was in writing that she read on air was right, but there was no proof of that message from 2 years ago,
Got it.
Other than the paraphrasing of what she said, and she's definitely a covert narcissist, and it pissed me off. You occasionally, interview horror stars on Zoom on your channel. Like, who are some of your favorites you've done so far?
Oh, gosh, I gotta say that my late, great, dear friend, Peter Spellos was
great
my
guy.
favorite.
Great guy.
Yeah, he was a wonderful human. One of my closest friends. I'm going to cry. One of my very closest friends. And so we lost him last November. I was actually at a con, working a con.
Yeah.
The morning I got the call about that. And that was a rough Sunday to host. But no, he's got to be my favorite ever. And I mean, Jessie Keenan, she was an actress that did some indie films. She did Full Moon's Sideshow. She was really fantastic. we did the Manson brothers from the Midnight Zombie Massacre zombie movie.
Right.
And they were really great to talk to as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just so many amazing folks to talk to, and I'll talk to anyone. And some of the most interesting interviews and conversations I have with some of these people are people that I'm not really fans of or didn't know much about until the interview. And then it was like, wow, what a great human you are. It's fantastic.
I could separate myself from the actor and the human. That's no problem. I'm down to earth, and I want to get to know the real person. And, sometimes I'll deal with these actors who want like a list of questions because they think that this is going to be a 10 question kind of a show because that's what they're used to and stuff. And I say, I don't really have questions until the night before. That's how I approach the interview and stuff. And I don't want to know the performer. I want to know the vulnerable human being, because I'm influenced by Mark Maron, and that's like my approach to interviewing. I mean, as far as horror goes, my favorites are like PJ Souls that I've had, Adrienne King, Lar Park Lincoln is a frequent guest. I'm like the only podcast she'll do like once a year. She and I get along great. Ronnie Blakely is one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. I'm one of the few that's gotten her on a podcast. She's very hard to pin down and stuff, but she had an album that came out 3 years ago, and she came on to promote. We talked over 80 minutes, and it was just a wonderful, candid, real conversation. I don't know if you know who Susie Stokey is. She doesn't do cons. She did a horror movie in 1984 called The Power.
Yeah, I know the movie.
Yeah, she was great. She's the only woman who has ever had an orgasm on this podcast. She's from that whole, sleazy B-movie regime of the Fred Olen Ray movies in the 80s and stuff. But yeah. Love
Fred Olen Ray. I've never got to talk to him, but
I have.
But yeah, no, like that was one of the connections that Fred Olen Ray did Sideshow.
Yep.
That I just spoke of. And yeah, so that was a big connector between me and Peter for sure.
Yeah, Michelle Bauer is a close friend of mine, and we talk, we text each other dirty jokes like once a month and stuff, and she's close with Fred, obviously. Do you ever listen to Talk Scary to Me?
I did in the beginning, like when it was a brand new baby podcast. I'm a Patreon supporter. But I fell off, didn't have time because most of my listening is usually work related as far as such as research for podcast, research for interviews, and also editing my own podcast. Right. So a lot of my listening is not really listening. It's work. So yeah, it usually has to do with something a project I'm working on. So I fell off. But I have listened in the beginning, and I still support. I'm a Patreon supporter, even though I haven't listened very much.
Yeah, they've toned down how dirty they were in the beginning, and I still listen to it. It's still entertaining and real and honest, and that's what I love is honesty in a podcast. I enjoy listening to it. So do you have any upcoming cons or interviews you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing Days of the Dead Chicago at the end of November. Very excited for that one. And, up until after that, I'm not doing cons until the next year. Let me pull up my roster.
Okay.
I was supposed to be in Spooky Empire last week, but it got canceled because of Milton. So, and I can't make the new date they have in 2 weeks. I'm not going to be able to attend that. So that's a big bummer because I was really looking forward to that. I was going to be working that one with an agent. And so that's a bummer. I'm not going to be able to attend that. Hold on. Sorry about this.
It's okay.
Okay. Days of the Dead Chicago, November 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Then next year, I've got Days of the Dead Vegas, January 17, 18, 19. Then we're back in Atlanta, February 21st through the 23rd. I'm pretty excited about that one. The lineup is great. And February is a great time to be in Atlanta. It's not too hot. Then we're back in Chicago in March. And then in Indianapolis in June. And Phoenix in July. And more dates to come. I'll also be, I don't think there's a date set for this yet. Mm-hmm. But I will be perusing the full floor probably, unless I have a conflict. I will be roaming around Flashback Weekend. It's normally the last weekend of July, first weekend of August, somewhere in there. And so unless there's a conflict with Days of the Dead, I do attend that one as well, just for the funsies. And I plan on attending, God willing, both Spooky Empires next year in Orlando. The nice. Orlando ones, not the Carolina ones yet.
I have never been. I've never been to a Days of the Dead. I've only gone to Monsterpalooza and Sister Creature Con and stuff like that as far as cons go. But I know there was a long period where they weren't doing it in LA anymore, and now they brought it back, right?
Yeah, we're back in LA. We rescheduled. We were supposed to do one in LA in 2024. It got rescheduled to next year. I'm not sure on the date. And then we went in 2023, and it was a great time. I mean, I'm from California originally. Oh. My family came down for the convention, and I spent a few extra days there, hung out with my friends. It was a great time.
What part of Cali are you from?
Bakersfield.
Oh, okay. Oh, God. So did you grow up with the stinky cow smell and oil fields and all that stuff?
Oil fields, yes. Well, there was not a lot of animals. Mm-hmm. There was some, but there weren't a lot so that you really noticed odor from animals. The farm is with the animals are kind of more on the outskirts. Mm-hmm. In the surrounding areas. But lots of agriculture, lots of pollen, lots of orange trees, and my allergies would drive me nuts every time, things started to bloom, all the citrus started to bloom, and I just was dying.
You poor thing.
I know, but very, very bad air pollution there. And, here's a fun story, a little Friday the 13th tie-in for you. Uh-huh. Our Jason remake, Derek Mears, right? Mm-hmm. I grew up watching him perform improv at a pizzeria when I was a child.
Nice.
Because he's from Bakersfield, and we have all the same theater friends, the local theater friends. He was just a few years older than me, so he was a few years ahead. But yeah, so we know all the same people back home, and I used to watch him perform when I was a kid.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, did you meet him at a con later and told him?
Yeah, I did. I met him actually in the Dolls of Horror premiere con. We came out when we were coming out, and this is our podcast, this is our first appearance. And we dressed up as dolls, and we were handing out business cards and stuff, and got a great response. He was at that con, and I was like, yeah, I used to watch you perform at Lamppost Pizza in Bakersfield when I was 10 or whatever. And he's like, oh my God. And so, yeah, we kind of bonded over that and, became fast friends.
Nice. That's so awesome. Well, Summer, I thank you so much for coming on today, finally, and I hope you have a happy Halloween season. If I get to make it out to a Days of the Dead show next year, I'll come say hi and give you a great big hug.
Oh, please do. And maybe you said you were California, right?
Yes, I live in Modesto currently.
Okay, there you go. Maybe you can come to LA or maybe even Vegas. That's not too terribly far.
I'd love to go to the Vegas one. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Vegas one is great, and the Vegas crowds are great. I love hosting panels there. That's probably my favorite city to host at because the crowds in Vegas are so electric and amazing. They really charge up the room more than any other city. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because they're so excited about being in Vegas.
Yeah.
Or it's just natural for them. But the Vegas crowds are fantastic. And yeah, so thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Yes, my
Can I
pleasure.
ask you a question?
Go right ahead.
What's your favorite Halloween season movies? Doesn't have to be the Halloween franchise, of course, but like your Halloween season go-tos.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, Dawn of the Dead, Once Bitten. Yeah, a little hodgepodge of those.
Very nice. Awesome. I love me some. I watched Terrifier 1 because that's a
Hmm.
Halloween movie. Terrifier 2 is also a Halloween movie, but I prefer the first one. And I always go through the Halloween franchise, of course, from
Hmm.
beginning to end. I don't think I'm going to make it this year because we're already halfway through the month and I haven't even started. But and I love Trick or Treat and God, what was that movie called? Not All Hallows Eve. Well, I can't. It's another anthology, but I am blanking on it. Anyway, I really love anthology Halloween season
It's
movies. Are just
fantastic.
so fun for me. So yeah, I always like to ask people that question. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I also throw Creep Show and Haunted Honeymoon in there too.
Yeah, Haunted Honeymoon. Wow. Oh, Gilda. Oh, Gilda.
Loved Gilda.
I miss Gilda more than most relatives. Like God, she was such a talent. And I quoted when I went to Peter's funeral
Hmm.
and I gave a speech. Someone who was involved in Saturday Night Live
Hmm.
said something about Gilda that was so fitting for Peter as well. And so I quoted that, and it was just so fitting. So yeah. Anyway, Gilda was great.
Yeah. You have a great day, Summer. Be safe.
Thank you, Tommy. You as well.
Good.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Summer Flynn. Ain't she a sweetheart? Oh my God, I love her energy. She is so awesome. I'm so glad we finally got to talk today. Go see her at Days of the Dead. She's a great interviewer. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.